This is a 2002 Mazda Protege, which needs a complete brake fluid flush. If we look at the fluid, we see it's very dark and it should be clear. In order to do this by myself, I'm going to need a clear bottle, about 32 ounces should do it, a 5/16 drill bit, a 1/16 drill bit, and a cable tie, plus some clear vinyl tubing with an inside diameter of 1/4 of an inch. About 26 inches of that should do. And we're going to need a drill. First thing we're going to do is take the 5/16 bit and drill a hole through the top of the cap. Now if the vinyl tubing doesn't fit through that opening, then we're going to use the same drill bit to just enlarge it a little bit. Watch your finger. The ideal here is not to make the hole so big that the tubing slides easily in and out, but that it's snug. So it may take a little convincing to get the tubing through. Now we're going to take the 1/16 bit and we're going to drill a hole through the cap, and this will be the vent hole. So we'll pull our tubing back out. No need to remove it completely. With the vent hole completed, we insert the tubing and secure the cap to the bottle, making sure that the tubing is all the way to the bottom of the bottle. We take our zip tie, put it on the other end of the tubing, and this is what's going to go up against the bleeder valve. The cable tie is going to make it so it's a nice snug connection and it doesn't pop off. Now we go to the brake reservoir and wipe it down with nice clean cloth, open it up, and we're going to take some of that brake fluid and put it into the bottle. Normally you'd use a turkey baster. I didn't have one, so in my case I found a pump which achieved the same results, but you're better off using a turkey baster. So we have this pump for taking out the brake fluid, the old dirty brake fluid, a funnel for putting in new brake fluid, and of course .3 brake fluid, which is what's recommended for this vehicle. Here's the dirty brake fluid out of the reservoir, and what that's going to do is it's going to keep air from going back up the line when we actually go to flush out the system. At the brake reservoir, I've removed the screen filter to make refilling easier and topped off the fluid. The proper procedure for bleeding the brake line on a Mazda Protege calls for starting with the right rear passenger side brake line, then proceeding over to the driver rear brake line, then moving up to the front passenger brake line, and finally finishing with the driver front brake line. While it's not necessary to remove the wheels to complete this procedure, it does make it a lot easier, especially if you don't have a way of lifting the vehicle off the ground. I have my bottle at the rear drum brake on the passenger side. There's the dust cap, which needs to be removed. And this is a top view looking down. Once the dust cap is removed, we are able to attach our vinyl hose, and then using the cable tie, we make sure it's a nice snug connection that won't come off. With the bottle placed on the ground, we make sure our tubing has a half loop so that air is trapped at the upper portion of the tube. And then using an 8mm open box wrench, we open the bleeder valve, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Remember, we're looking at this from top down, so it's backwards. Then you go to the car, gently push on the brake pedal all the way to the floorboard. And as you do this, the old brake fluid will start pouring out into the container. Do this about 10 times, then we'll stop and we'll check the reservoir to make sure that it hasn't emptied out. Then we replenish the brake fluid, and you can fill this past the max line, as we're just going to cap it and pump more of it out. And you'll continue this cycle until you have clear fluid coming down the tube. At which point now we're able to close off the bleeder valve and remove the tubing. I generally lift the tube up so that the rest of the brake fluid pours into the jar without spilling anything. Don't forget to reattach the dust cap onto the bleeder valve. Go to the driver's side brake drum, take off the dust cap, and then we just repeat the very same procedure that we did for the passenger side. Attach the hose, start pumping the brake fluid out. We make sure that we maintain our half loop so that air is trapped at the top of the tubing, and we continue the very same procedure we did before. Flushing, refilling, until clear fluid comes out of the tubing. Now for the front passenger brake, it's the same procedure. We find the little dust cap, we take that off, we attach the tubing, and once again we check our reservoir, make sure it's full, and then we do the very same process. Eventually we'll have clear fluid coming out. Then the last thing we do is reattach that dust cap, and if you've spilled any brake fluid, just use some brake fluid cleaner. Then clean up any spills along the reservoir. Make sure it is filled up to its max level. Turn on the engine. Check for the brake light. Make sure it goes out. Make sure to turn off your parking brake. And then pump on the pedal to make sure that light does not come back on. When you turned off the engine, check the reservoir. Make sure it's at the max level. And make sure to properly dispose of the used brake fluid. If you found this video useful, please give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe. As always, thank you for watching.